Matt Whitaker.
Ankeny, Iowa! Does anybody know why Ankeny, Iowa is special to me?
Hometown.
This is my hometown! I was born and raised. DMAC was barely a thing when I was growing up. I used to play baseball just over here in a field on the DMAC campus. Such a beautiful facility here, the FFA Enrichment Center. We're so lucky to be able to use this to make sure that we turn out big in less than 2 weeks on January 15th and caucus for Donald J. Trump. Now, do I have any caucus captains in the room? Oh, caucus captains. Do I have any caucus captains in the room? All right, there's still time. There's still time. There's over 2,000 caucus sites in this great state of Iowa, and each one of them we're trying to get a caucus captain and maybe even a backup caucus captain. In fact, for Ankeny 10, I am the backup caucus captain. I have my hat and my stickers ready to go because I can't wait for 7 p.m. on January 15th so I can cast my vote for Donald Trump so he's the next president of the United States. So if you're interested in being a caucus captain, sign up at ia.donaldjtrump.com because you know what? We need to not only win Iowa, we need to win big. We need to set the state record. We need to set the state record for the largest margin of victory in Iowa caucus history. Can you help me do that? I appreciate, there's so many familiar faces in this room, and I appreciate every single person that's come here today to hear what Eric Trump has to say. You know, I've spent some time with him over the years, and I'm telling you, every one of these Trump kids is just such a shining example of what good parenting and good child rearing gets you. You know, we have such a benefit to have Donald J. Trump to be our standard bearer, and I just want to, you know, if he was here, the first thing he would tell you, being in the FFA Enrichment Center, a place where we train the next generation of farmers, he would tell you how good he was for Iowa farmers, how he brought billions of dollars from China and gave it to the farmers, how he understands why ethanol is so important to the American farmer and especially Iowa's corn farmers. And he would explain to you how competition and open markets and free and fair trade benefits Iowa farmers every single day. So I got one question for every single one of you here today. Are you ready to caucus for Donald J. Trump? Are you ready to hear the word from my friend Eric Trump? Well, it gives me a great honor to not only welcome to my hometown of Ankeny, Iowa, but welcome to the great state of Iowa. And really, it's welcome back because he's been here several times. He was reminding me of in 2016 how that ragtag group of Trumps came to this state and figured out how to caucus, how to run a campaign, and ultimately became President of the United States. And we're going to do it again in 2024. So without further delay, my good friend, your good friend, Eric Trump.
Iowa, we love you guys so much, and we love Matt. And tell me Matt wasn't one of the good guys in Washington, D.C., and by the way, there weren't all that many in that swamp city that we all know so well. I'm telling you, he was one of the toughest guys. He never backed down. When the wind would blow the other way, Matt, we all know who would run. One of those people might be running right now. Running in the state right now, but Matt never, ever wavered. He was the greatest. The guy was literally steel. And that's what you create in Iowa. That's exactly what we create in Iowa. We need a lot more of that in Washington, D.C., but he's truly been a great friend to my father. He's been a great friend to the family. He's been a great friend to this country, and we need a hell of a lot more like that guy right there. So you should be incredibly proud that he's part of this community. And So Haley made an interesting little blunder today. Did anybody see this? This was pretty terrible. I would actually put this on the scale of the deplorables comment by Hillary Clinton, which was You'd say probably pretty terrible as well, right? So she comes out and she says that New Hampshire is going to fix the mistake, and I'm paraphrasing, that Iowa makes, meaning because she thinks she can win New Hampshire, which she won't, but she knows that she's going to lose Iowa. So she says that New Hampshire is going to fix the mistake that the people in Iowa are otherwise going to make. And that's, I don't know, that's pretty derogatory to be going around the state campaigning on the fact that an entire population of people are going to make a mistake by voting for somebody that they like more than you. I haven't quite figured this one out, but it's it's rather remarkable. But my father was the greatest president in the world to not just the state, but in general. What he did for the state, he loved this state. And I always tell the story, we got to Iowa, we didn't know what the hell we were doing in politics. I literally tell the story every single time. I get here, there's this young staffer that drove me to one of the caucuses, and I asked him, I go, listen, I build hotels and other things. I go, somebody here has to tell me what exactly a caucus is, because I still can't quite figure it out. And by the way, just so you know, there are people in the state that can't quite figure it out, right? You probably deal with them every day. And he goes, well, sir, you're going to have exactly 5 minutes to speak, and you're going to talk about why, your father is better than they are, and then they're going to speak. I go, who is they? Well, Ted Cruz is going to speak next to you, Jeb Bush is going to speak right next to you, and I'm sitting there saying, Jeb Bush knows something about politics, I don't. Ted Cruz knows something about politics, I clearly don't. I think Ben Carson was there, a few other people. And I remember getting into that caucus location. I spoke in 4 gyms that night, and they were filled with people. There were thousands of people in those gyms. And we spoke from the heart. Again, we didn't know anything about politics. We tried to come off as this very sincere people who want to go in and save a country that was otherwise in ruin coming out of the Obama administration, a country that was giving $150 billion to Iran, a country that chants death to America, an administration that was literally targeting the First Amendment, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. They were targeting the Second Amendment. They were targeting our Constitution. They were targeting our Pledge of Allegiance. They're certainly targeting our flag. They were targeting holidays that we had. They were borderline incompetent with 3/4 of the policies that they put in. And I never forget my father. He's reading the papers one day, and it's exactly what I said before. The Obama administration gives $150 billion to Iran, including $1.8 billion in cash. Remember, they flew it in the cargo planes into Tehran? And my father's shaking his head, saying, what the hell are we doing? What is this country doing? This is insane. They're literally chanting death to America over there, and we're giving them $150 billion and $1.8 billion in cash. And you know where that cash is going. That's not exactly going to help the children on the street of Tehran, right? That's going into politicians' pockets. What are they doing? And then my father would read, the headlines of some paper. United States is ranked 30th in the world in terms of education. He's sitting there saying, no, this isn't the United States of America. We should be number 1 at everything we do because we're the United States of America. Everything we do, number 1. We should have the greatest military in the world. We should have the greatest economy in the world. We should have the greatest manufacturing in the world. We should have everything, certainly education. There's nothing, and we're ranked, 30th in the world? And by the way, on a percentage of money spent per kid, we were like 20 times the next highest country, and yet we're failing on this? And we're failing with the border, and we're failing with the military, and we're failing with our vets, and we're failing with just about everything else. And my father wanted to do this, and I'll never forget, I was right next to him when Hillary Clinton called. I tell the story once in a while. In fact, I have a picture that I came across my phone like 2 days ago. So it's when he was on the cell phone. You can only imagine the voice on the other end. I could see it through his face as only a son can. Does that make sense? And you hear her voice and just how tough it would. Yeah, not many of us are big fans, clearly. And that was a great moment. That was a great moment. And I told this story this morning to a couple people that are in this room, but 12 minutes after that phone call was made, the Washington Post does an article. This is when the impeachment of Donald Trump begins. They didn't even give the guy a damn shot. He won decisively. This wasn't like a close election. He won decisively in terms of the delegate count and everything else. They didn't even give him a shot. It was the Washington, D.C. system. It was the crooked media, and we have plenty of it in this country. And they knew that they knew that the Russia thing was coming. I was the guy that got the phone calls from the Washington Post and the New York Times, right? Remember, Michael Sussman goes into the FBI headquarters. We believe that the Trump organization is communicating directly with Russia through secret servers that they have in the basement. So I get a call from the Washington Post first and the New York Times second. We hear you're communicating with the Kremlin. I go, excuse, is this April Fool's? Like, I'm literally like looking at my watch. We hear you're communicating with the Kremlin. I go, excuse me? Yeah, you have Secret Service in the basement of Trump Tower. I can assure you, you don't have Secret Service in the basement of Trump. First of all, you don't have servers, as I explained to some people today, in basements because basements flood. Let's just start with the obvious, right? Second of all, a lot of the world is based on cloud computing now. You don't really even have servers, so this whole narrative was junk. So then Michael Sussman leaves. He calls up the New York Times, the Washington Post, and you know what he says? He says the FBI, apparently, the FBI is investigating the Trump Organization. So the New York Times, the Washington Post calls the FBI, are you investigating the Trump Organization? We can't comment. And this is beginning of the Russia investigation, which was paid for by Hillary Clinton. The guy didn't even assume office yet, and the powers to be, the corruption of Washington, D.C., were already trying to destroy his life, destroy my life, go after Don. You remember Adam Schiff going out saying Don was an agent of Russia? They didn't give the guy a chance. Then they impeach him once, and that was all nonsense as we came out to see. Then they impeach him twice, and they go after Kavanaugh viciously, making up all these rumors and slanders. They try and destroy him there. And despite that, he had the lowest unemployment in the history of the country, the lowest female unemployment, the lowest Hispanic unemployment, the lowest African American unemployment, the lowest youth unemployment, the largest tax cuts in the history of our nation. The largest. Peace in the Middle East. He fought like hell for religious freedom. He fought like hell for the Second Amendment and all the things that we care about. He rebuilt the military, built the greatest military on. You know, he's the only president in history that never got America into a war. Never got America into a war. And you remember Hillary would go around the place and she would, you know, he doesn't have the temperament to be president. He can't have his finger on the nuclear. It's funny, it's the exact temperament that you want as a president, because no one would challenge the United States of America because you had somebody in there that had some grit and backbone and strength and cared and didn't sell his family and his influence to every country around the world, including Ukraine and China and Romania and everybody else. You know, his kids were not on the payroll, to say the least, unlike a counterpart that we have right now. And what's really interesting is the media does nothing about it. You know, they know exactly what was happening. They know that whole family, grandkids were taking massive amounts of money from foreign countries while he was VP. You know, for what? For what product was he selling? I always ask that question. I ask that question like 30 times a day. You know what we do? We do hotels and golf courses and stuff. What the hell product? By the way, we have a lot of John Deere. If anybody is affiliated with John Deere in this room, aside from a couple of big farms, we order probably more John Deere than just about anybody. They're the greatest machines, and we love that grain. But everybody knows the answer to that question. What was he selling? What product was he selling? What website did he have? Did he have a website? How can you make $10 million off of these various countries and literally not have a website even advertising your services? Like, you can be a small pizzeria and have a website, but yet somebody who's taking that much money in from around the world for various quote-unquote services doesn't have a website and is going through about 400 different shell companies. Give me a break. The whole world understands exactly what it is, but guys, they never gave him a chance. You know, they wanted to attack him from day one, and despite that, he was the greatest president that the country had seen. He restored strength. And I mentioned this story to somebody. He always tells the story that, Obama called him, that day when they did the transition of government. Obama told him, he goes, listen, you will be at war with North Korea in the next year. You will, 100%. They're out of control. There's no stocking them. They're, creating nuclear weapons, all sorts of things. You will be at war with North Korea. And you see these images where, Obama and Kamala and all these people are looking through these massive binoculars in North Korea from like 25 miles away. And then you have that, paralleled with the fact that the worst enemy that we had under the previous administration to him, was about to go to war. And a couple months later, just based on power and him calling him Little Rocket Man and him telling him that he had a much bigger button and that his button actually freaking worked, right? And demeaning him a little bit and beating him up around the world and embarrassing him and all sorts of other things that he did, right? A lot of things behind the scenes. But, all of a sudden, a couple months later, he's walking across that invisible line between, South Korea and then into North Korea. The Secret Service did not like this. I can tell you that. They were not exactly thrilled that, the President of the United States was walking into a, pretty tough country that and not many Americans get to go in. But it's really amazing. He developed relationships with all the toughest people in the world. All the tough world leaders loved him. You know who didn't like him, and I said this earlier, a lot of the meek world leaders. Why is it that the meek people never really got along with Trump, but the tough ones? He did great with Turkey, Erdogan. He did great with, everyone. He did great with Japan. He did actually great, surprisingly, with China, even though there was no president in the history of this country that was tougher on China than him. He actually did decently well with him because, honestly, he drew a line, and he wasn't going to get pushed around, and he wasn't going to be coerced, and he couldn't be bought, and they knew he was no games. And when Iran started having nuclear scientists that were, nuclear scientists, but also people who are creating all the IEDs and things in Iraq, guess what? They took him out with a Reaper drone, and every single world leader paid a lot of attention to that, saying, America's willing to act. They're building the greatest army. They've rebuilt their forces. They're ordering the greatest planes on planet Earth. And it was peace through strength. He did a remarkable job, and you compare that to the current administration right now, and I'm not sure, and honestly, I'd give somebody credit if credit was due. I'm not sure if I can come up with a single quantitative metric right now, today, that's working. What's working? The fact that oil prices went through the absolute roof. My father had the lowest oil prices in the history of the nation. Do you remember? Do you remember he filled up the petroleum reserves for like peanuts? He was buying oil for like $1.28. It was unbelievable. It's like he picked it within like a day or two of the lowest, locked into a massive, filled up the whole energy reserves, which Biden ends up using to try and win him re-election. You probably remember that. He drained the entire petroleum reserves, which, by the way, are meant for national defense. They're not meant for, trying to win yourself an election when you're grossly unpopular because you drive gas prices. So Biden comes in the first day. What does he do? He cancels the Keystone XL pipeline. Gas prices go through the roof. Then the next day he comes out and says there's going to be a war on all fracking, all drilling, all this, all that, all ethanol, everything. Instant war on all forms of energy. Guess what? Gas prices go through the roof. So what follows gas prices? Inflation, right? And what else happens? Russia becomes rich. Our enemies become rich. Iran becomes rich. Russia becomes rich. It's awfully easy to fight a war against Ukraine when you're selling energy for $120 a barrel. It's awfully tough to fight a war when your greatest commodity as a country is at $25, $30 a barrel. It bankrupts them. It bankrupts our enemies. And beyond that, we were energy independent under Donald Trump, so we were sending oil and gas from the United States over to Europe. So we were making money. America was profiting off of it. Russia was making absolutely nothing. They couldn't fight wars. They couldn't enrich themselves. Same thing with Iran. And instead, what happens? Energy prices go through the roof. Every time we go fill up at the pump, we get absolutely hammered. It's 3 times as expensive. But then the administration goes out and they spend $250 billion fighting a war on the other side of the globe that shouldn't have happened. Guess whose money that is? That's your money. That's your taxpayer money. So not only are you paying more, not to make anybody depressed in this room, but not only are you paying more at the pump, but you're spending $250 billion of our money that could go into having the greatest schools in the world, that could have the greatest manufacturing in the world, that could take care of vets in this country, that could be used for awesome programs that could benefit so many people. And guess what? We're paying for that. And you know how much Germany's contributed? Less than 10%. And they're not even contributing to NATO and other things. It's a joke. So guess what? We have skyrocketing inflation. Eggs go up 67%. Everything goes up. Heating oil. Heating oil goes through the absolute roof. There was a time where literally at Home Depot, 2x4s were like 16, 17 bucks a 2x4. Everybody in here remembers that. The sheets of plywood were 80 bucks. It was insane. Our entire supply chain was absolutely shot and went to garbage. And you know what Pete Buttigieg was, our great Secretary of Transportation? When nothing was on the shelves and a piece of plywood cost 80 bucks, Pete Buttigieg went on paternity leave, because why wouldn't you leave all the shelves in the country empty and go on a hiatus? And when Kamala Harris became border czar, you know where she went? She went to Vietnam because if you become border czar and you have a massive immigration problem and they're overrunning our southern border, tens of millions of people a year, why not go to Vietnam if you're a border czar? I mean, think about that. And then you have the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. And where's Joe Biden? He's in Delaware because, you know, after a 20-year war, spending trillions of dollars over there and losing thousands of people and having thousands of people injured, probably people in this room right now, why wouldn't you be in Delaware as literally the Taliban is chasing us out of one of the greatest military installations which we paid for anywhere on earth? It's a clown show. It's a clown show. And, you know, he needs this job like a hole in the head. I say that every single day. I say that on repeat. The last thing that I can tell you Donald Trump needs is the presidency and this headache and this job. If he was to announce that he wasn't running, they would leave him alone overnight, right? Because all they're trying to do is keep him off the ticket. You saw that in Maine this week. You saw that in Colorado, as absurd as that is. He'd live a much better life, but the country is truly going down the tubes based on incompetency. I mean, and you have to wonder if it was, I mean, I truly do believe it's intentional. But, you know, it's too severe to be incompetence. It's too severe to be incompetence at this point. And then you look at every single system that's been weaponized in this country. Education's been weaponized. Higher education, you're seeing what's happening at Harvard right now. I mean, think about it. You have the president of Harvard that can't say that the genocide of Jewish people is not allowed on the Harvard campus? I mean, tell me that's not like the easiest question that any person in history has ever been asked. And, you know, and their response is it's based on context? Are we out of our minds? It's not, there's no context to that. Like, it's just wrong. It's wrong. And you see what they did in Loudoun County and the incredible moms in Loudoun County. Thank God for moms, by the way. Thank God for moms. I truly mean that. I've got the greatest wife in the world who, thank God she does the job that she does with our kids. But you saw these moms stand up and fight like hell and change around that whole system. They were indoctrinating children. There was revisionist history of each one of our kids, and there's nothing more precious and nothing more sacred to all of us than our kids and having them grow up with American spirit and American you know, but they've weaponized those industries. They weaponized the FBI. They weaponized the DOJ. They've corrupted the military. I mean, the military is more interested right now in changing the name of bases. Was anybody here stationed at Bragg? Thank you. Well, now Bragg is officially Fort Liberty because apparently the name offended somebody. They're doing the same thing with Camp Lejeune and a lot. So would you say the greatest military installation anywhere on the face of the earth? I think it's the largest. I'm pretty sure it's the largest anywhere on earth. It's incredible. I mean, how much money and time did they spend debating names? Why? You know, the history, the lineage that had. I mean, this is what they're focused on. They're not focused on winning wars. They're focused on DEI. They're focused on nonsense. They're sensitivity training. Do we really want sensitivity training in our military? I kind of want anti-sensitivity training in our military versus... By the way, should we call Donald Trump and see if he picks up the phone? Hold on one second. He's at dinner at Mar-a-Lago right now. Let me see if he's there. Hold on one second. He always picks up. He's good with the cell phone.
Hello.
Hey, Pops, I'm in Iowa with an incredible group of people. There's tremendous support in the stage. There's a tremendous amount of media here. We're going to win the state in a very, very big way. I'm telling everybody that they've got to go out and caucus because we're going to put DeSantis to bed. I think he already might be to bed, and Haley's not doing too well either, especially after her dad. I'm not sure if you saw her comment today. It wasn't exactly artful, but I think she upset most of Iowa. But say hi to the entire crowd.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for being so loyal, for being so wonderful. And always remember, we got the farmers of Iowa $28 billion. That's a lot of money. And I can't think about Joe Biden doing that. He wouldn't even think about it, and he wouldn't know how to do it. But I just want to say we have had a great relationship with Iowa, with the farmers and everybody else. Got a lot of other people in Iowa that do an incredible, productive job. And We love you. I'm going to be coming out there on Friday. I'm going to be there Friday and Saturday. Then I'm coming back the following week. And I'm going to caucus probably in Des Moines. I'll be doing caucus with you. We're going to work it, and we can't take any chances. And everybody has to get out because we don't want to sit back and rely on the polls. We have to take our country back. Biden is destroying our country at the border with our military, with interest rates, with every single thing. With energy, look at energy costs. Your energy costs have tripled. Your food costs have tripled. So I just want to say I look forward to seeing you on Friday. We love you all, and I hope my son is doing a great job because he always has done a good job. Thank you, everybody. Have a good time. I'll see you on Friday in Iowa. Thanks. And thanks, Eric. Take care of yourself. Goodbye, everybody.
We love you very much, Dad. Have a great dinner, and I'll speak to you. By the way, I'm standing between the two most beautiful John Deere tractors you've ever seen in your entire life.
Wow.
My father's a big fan of John Deere and everything John Deere, and so we're
That's true.
we're in the heartland.
We buy
And
a lot of John Deere equipment. They're great company. Good luck, everybody. I'll see you on Friday. So long.
love you, pops. Bye. You know, he was the guy that I'd call him. And I'll never forget this. And, you know, maybe Giuliani was in his office in New York. And, you know, this was obviously when he was in private industry and long before politics and long before The Apprentice and everything else as a little kid. And the guy picked up his phone every time. It didn't matter if there was a president in his office. It didn't matter if there was a mayor in his office. He'd pick up the phone. Hi, Eric. Say hi to Mr. Giuliani. Hi, Eric. Say hi to, you know, whoever the person was in that room. He was a guy who always picked up his phone for his 3 kids every single time. And as we went to school every morning, I'd always go give him a kiss, and he would always say, Eric, you know, 3 things. No drinking, no drugs, and no smoking. Every single morning, and I'm sitting there, I'm a 5-year-old kid, Dad, what the hell is drinking? Like, yeah, like apple juice type drinking, like Kool-Aid? Like, I didn't really quite get that, right? And, you know, Dad, what's smoking, right? And what's drugs? I don't really understand the concept of any of these, but every single day he beat that into our heads. No drinking, no drugs, no smoking. You better get damn good grades, right? Which is, you know, I have high expectations for you. You better work incredibly hard. He was truly an amazing dad, and we need a lot more of that in society. And, you know, I look, again, I don't mean to bring this back up, but I look at counterparts that are in there right now, and a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, a lot of smoking, a lot of other things, a lot of corruption, unruly pets. I don't get that. I mean, like, how hard is it to mess up a German Shepherd, right? Like, they're like the greatest dogs ever, yet, you know, half my ex-Secret Service guys have gotten bitten by that dog like 12 times. It's unbelievable. That dog bites everything. So, you know, you screw up your one son, you screw up your pets. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. Everybody's corrupt. Everybody's. The guy was truly remarkable. He, you know, certainly the 5 of us were always on the straight and narrow. At 11, guess what? You're going to be out on construction sites, or you're going to be cutting rebar with acetylene torches. You're going to be doing plumbing and electrical. You're going to be running tractors and backhoes and chainsaws and digging holes, and you're going to make minimum wage and sometimes below that, and you're going to learn the value of $1. And, you know, if you're good at this stuff, you can maybe come into the company at the very base level, and if you're not, go find something else to do, and you will work hard. You will be the first person up and the last person to go to bed. And I just wish you could distill the values. He's a remarkable man, but, you know, I told you before that he was going to pick up, right? He always picks up. He always picks up the phone on his kids, and it's a great lesson for me, and one that I try and implement, probably not as well as he did, to tell you the truth, but it's one that I always try and implement now. But, guys, we're going to win this. We have to win this. But we have to win it by such a great margin that it ends the campaign of the others. The reality is the games have to stop. You know, the country has spoken. He's at 68% or 67% nationally in the polls. He's going to win this. But at the end of the day, it's not about that. We've got to beat Biden. Or whoever. I'm not even sure if Biden makes it to the finish line, but, you know. That's a great hat, by the way. That came from Trump's store. Thank you. I don't know if the guy makes it to the finish line, right? And you know, let's say maybe they put in Newsom, maybe they put in somebody else, maybe they put in Kamala. I hope they put in Kamala, because I mean, she would just be a pleasure to run against. Do you ever see that fake thing where they hire the little, like, model kids to talk about the space program? Did anybody see this? Honestly, like, that's your infomercial for Kamala Harris, and They literally hire these little kids. She's like, it's beautiful, and space is so large, and it's great, and we're going to get there. And I mean, the whole thing was like a total act. It was a total sham. It was written out by her by some political consultant. I mean, this is literally what we have in the White House right now. And, you know, this country's got real problems, and there's a lot of great adversaries around the world that do not have our best interests at heart. And I say that in the kindest way possible. There are a lot of people who would love this country not to exist. There are people who want to take the U.S. dollar, and they want to extinguish the English language, and they want to have control over the entire world's economy, and they want to own every aspect of it. Those countries are pumping out, you know, fighter jets every single day. They're pumping out new warships every single day. They're taking territory in other places. They've got their eyes on places like Taiwan. You've got a lot of really big problems. Israel is surrounded by a bunch of countries that not only hate their way of life and their religion, but it would certainly be willing to hurt us in the worst ways possible. And you have a guy who literally has been on vacation 40% of his presidency, is the last one in the office, is the first one to leave, accomplishes nothing, can't walk off a stage, can't get up to Air Force One, can't get through. I mean, he certainly couldn't do what the hell I'm doing right now, which is, does anybody see any notes here? I can promise you there's no. Now. And the greatest fighter in the world is my father. In fact, it's kind of sometimes what he's actually criticized for. He's criticized for fighting too much, and we better have a fighter. This country needs a fighter like never before. We needed a fighter in 2016, but not nearly to the extent that we need a fighter right now, both to preserve what our country is and our number one position in the world, but also to preserve just core values. Those little kids right there, to preserve something from them, because we are going down an awfully tragic road when you can have 6'5" males, guys my height, that are swimming in NCAA women's sports and, you know, beating records by 15 seconds and other things. It's not fair. It's not right. It's eroding society. We need God. We need family. We need Constitution. And we need a lot of common sense. A lot of common sense. So Iowa, we love you. I appreciate you. So good to be back. This time it's great to not be on the table at a pizza ranch, which is where it all started for me. And I'm telling you, I spoke standing on a table of every damn pizza ranch across. That place is awesome. It's actually got great chicken wings. I love that place. I normally speak, then I was starving, and I'd wolf down a pizza and wings, and then it would put you in this like food coma for the rest of the day. But we love you guys, and I promise we as a family will never stop fighting. As many arrows as they put in my back, as many arrows as they put in my father's back, we will never, ever, ever stop fighting. And we're going to win this thing, and we love you guys very much. And God bless America, and God bless Iowa. Thank you, guys.